Again, we have three speakers this morning, and as you listen to them talk about the people and the ministry and the work of these congregations, I invite you to listen for hope, how it shows up in their lives and in the work that they're doing together. Again, we're going to start with Mary Miller, who is going to speak to us about our most local partnership, All People's Church. Welcome, Mary.
Good morning. The first thing I want to point out is our mural. It was commissioned about 1.5 years ago. It's in the sanctuary. You see the church building on the left, and just the hope and the rays of sunshine. All of these people are people of the community, of all peoples are connected. In the center with the stole on is Pastor Santiago from Los Heroes, because all peoples, Los Heroes and St. John's are all partners. So that's why he's in our mural. So All Peoples is located in the heart of Milwaukee. It is the unshakable hope of the kingdom of God. They live out each and every day by welcoming all. All are different, but all are children of God. I would like to let you know more of the beautiful people who make up the congregation of All Peoples. These people share their faith and hope with each other, their congregation, and the community. All Peoples is a woman who lives near the church with her teenage children. She is the heart of the church. She answers calls and texts from anyone whenever they come. She has 3 children. They have struggled in school. 2 are now succeeding. The 3rd, unfortunately, is struggling with addiction, so we keep praying for her. Another is a retired white couple from Brookfield. They left their comfortable evangelical congregation to share their talents and love at All Peoples. The people who humbly ask for food from the food pantry. The family who joined because of the acceptance of their son who lives with mental illness. A young multiracial couple who are raising 2 young foster children, one with substantial health needs and one who they are hoping to adopt very soon. They live their lives all while working through challenging work schedules. I can't believe it, A farmer who donates his trailers full of extra corn on the cob during the summer. A dad recently out of prison who worships with his wife and children. They hold hands in prayer at the altar after receiving communion. A professional woman who moved to the Milwaukee area a few years ago and fell in love with the All People's mission. The partner churches who pray, donate money, coats, and food. A family matriarch who cares for not only her extended family, but feeds all who come for lunch on Wednesdays. A 60-something African-American gentleman who is a sharp dresser. He steps in when able to help around the church. A couple who, despite having substantial physical disabilities, navigate all the stairs at All Peoples and volunteer with whatever job they are asked. Their sons are caring, well-spoken teenagers with goals of going to college. The many Lutheran Volunteer Corps members who have come through the doors and who have been touched. Many are now pastors throughout the country. An executive director of a local foundation who has been a member of All Peoples from the start. The volunteers who work weekly at the food pantry. A woman who is a lesbian who volunteers her time in a leadership role at the church. A Hispanic woman who shared her faith and struggles with the St. John's youth who volunteered at All Peoples this summer. The St. Vincent de Paul evening meal program and their volunteers from throughout the city who serve dinner 5 days a week. A member who is struggling with cancer. At a party celebrating her, the whole congregation and many partners came to show their support. Of course, just like everyone, they judge each other and all that stuff. But they also open their arms wide in love and hugs to all who step into their community. Through the face of all peoples, you see the face of God. The Bible asks us, what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and walk humbly with your God? All of these people accept each other as a fellow child of God. They are the face of all who believe in the hope and resurrection of Christ. Now I just want to put in a little plug. This afternoon at 3 o'clock at All Peoples is their annual praise dinner. It's a Thanksgiving dinner for the community and anyone who comes. If my husband and I are going, if you'd like to join me, see me after the service, and I'll tell you how to get there, or you can go with us. So thank you.
Mary Beth Gubbins is going to introduce our guests. We're going to speak to us about our El Salvadoran partnership.
Well, hello. My name is Mary Beth Gubbins, and I, along with Carrie Stahl, we kind of head up the Education for Life, or the El Salvador Scholarship Program. And I have been down there twice and met with the kids. But today, it is my honor and joy to introduce you to Miguel and his wife, Julie. Jeff and I and our family have supported Miguel since we think 3rd grade, all the way up through the university. And so it is my honor and my pleasure to have him speak to you exactly what that meant to be part of the scholarship program and part of the love and support that St. John's gives all the children there. So Miguel, Julie.
Hi. I am Miguel. I am from El Salvador. This is my wife, Julie. She is going to translate. Estuve viviendo en la comunidad de los héroes en El Salvador, la cual tiene hermandad acá con la iglesia.
I lived in Los Héroes in El Salvador, which is the church that has a sister relationship with St. John's.
Y juntas trabajan en diferentes programas para apoyar a los jóvenes.
And together, Los Héroes and St. John work together on various programs to support the young people.
Uno de ellos es el programa de becas para los niños y los jóvenes,
And one of those projects is the scholarship program for kids and youth,
la cual es para familias de escasos recursos.
which focuses on families that have less economic abilities.
Yo fui parte del programa de becas desde muy pequeño.
And I was a part of the scholarship program since I was quite small.
Recuerdo que pasaba mucho tiempo en la iglesia pintando, dibujando,
And I remember passing a lot of time in church, spending a lot of time there painting and drawing.
con otros niños y el pastor hablando sobre Jesús y su amor.
And I'd be there with other kids, and we would talk with Pastor Santiago about Jesus and his love.
Recuerdo que a veces teníamos grupos de San Juan
And
y era muy emocionante. Cuando nos visitaban, la gente siempre estaba feliz.
And I remember sometimes that groups from St. John's would come and visit, and this was a really exciting time that the people were always so happy.
Pasaban algunos días con nosotros y podíamos sentir su amor.
And they passed just a few days with us, and when they were there, we could always feel their love
Y el apoyo de la iglesia hermana.
and the support from our sister church.
La iglesia de los héroes siempre ha sido un hogar para muchas familias de mi comunidad.
And Los Héroes Church has always been a safe place for many families of my community.
Hemos pasado mucho tiempo soñando sobre el futuro y construyendo una mejor comunidad.
And we passed a lot of time dreaming of the future and ways that we could build our community.
A través de todo lo que ha hecho la iglesia de Los Héroes, el apoyo en la iglesia hermana, a veces económicamente y a veces por sus oraciones y amistad.
And through everything that Los Héroes has done, there was the support of St. John's that came financially, but also through prayers and thoughts.
Uno de los programas más importantes es el programa de becas,
And one of the most important programs that the churches did together was the scholarship program
que ayuda a muchos jóvenes desde kinder hasta la universidad.
that's helped a lot of young people from kindergarten all the way through the university.
Para esos alumnos y sus familias, ustedes dan la oportunidad de seguir adelante.
And for these kids and their families, you give them the opportunity to keep moving forward.
Con más educación, la comunidad puede tomar una parte más activa en construir su propio futuro.
And with education, people can have a more active role in building their own future.
Con una educación, aún en una educación básica, la gente puede tener su propia voz y puede luchar para una vida mejor y más justa.
And even just a basic education, people are able to have their own voice in building a better community and a more just future.
Un programa como el suyo empodera a los alumnos y sus familias a esperar una mejor comunidad, un mejor país y un mejor futuro.
And a program like your scholarship program empowers families and their children to work for a better future, a better community, a better country.
El regalo de educación tiene valor más allá de la media.
And the value of education goes beyond measure.
En ese aspecto, todos los padrinos de San Juan toman parte en construir una mejor comunidad a través de los alumnos que apoyan.
In that aspect, all of the sponsors here from St. John have a role, have a part in building a better community through their scholarship students.
Yo era becario en el programa, el cual me ayudó mucho a seguir adelante con mis estudios.
And I was a member, a student who received scholarships that helped me continue my studies.
Tuve mucha suerte de tener unos padrinos que siempre estaban apoyándome,
And I was so lucky to get sponsors that would be so supportive of me.
no solo económicamente, sino que emocionalmente a través de cartas.
And not just financially, but also emotionally, as they'd send me letters.
Siempre estaba contento de recibirlas y de conocer más acerca de la familia.
And I was always so happy to receive letters and learn more about the family.
Sentía que conocía personalmente a mis padrinos y sabía que me querían mucho.
And I felt that I personally knew my sponsors, and I knew that they loved me so much.
Siempre guardé las fotos y las cartas
I always saved all of my letters and all of the photos they sent me.
y en el 2013 conocí a Maribeth.
And in 2013, I was able to finally meet Mary Beth in person.
Fue bastante emocionante conocerla.
And it was so exciting to meet her.
El año pasado ella llegó de nuevo a la iglesia.
And last year, she came back again to the church,
She went to my home.
and she came to my
I
house.
had all the letters and I showed her.
And I showed her the collection of all oh, that was in English.
Sorry. Como muchos jóvenes en El Salvador, mi camino de estudiar no era fácil.
And like so many youth in El Salvador, my road of education was not easy.
Mi familia no tenía el suficiente dinero, aparte del estudio, era para ropa, para comida, así que tuve que salir a trabajar.
My family went through a really tough economic situation that they just really didn't have enough money for food or clothes, so it fell on me to go work.
A un estado diferente, lejos de mi familia.
And so I actually left to a different department or state, far from my family, to work.
Estuve trabajando por un año,
And I worked there for a year.
luego mi trabajo se terminó, regresé a la comunidad y no tenía trabajo,
And
y
then-
estaba estudiando.
And so when the job I was doing ended, I went back to my community, and I was there then without a job and without the opportunity to study.
Estaba triste, pero sabía que siempre continuaría estudiando, siempre mantenía la esperanza.
I was really sad, but I knew that I had this desire to keep studying, and I didn't lose that hope.
Sabía que la iglesia de los héroes siempre iba a apoyarme, así que recurrí al pastor Santiago.
And I knew that the church in St. John's had always supported me, so I went and I found Pastor Santiago.
Y él me ayudó junto con mis padrinos de nuevo para seguir adelante.
And Pastor Santiago, along with my sponsors, helped me so that I could re-enter the program to continue studying.
Fue tan maravilloso de que ellos volvieron a aceptarme de nuevo. Sentía tan feliz como ellos siempre estaban ahí para apoyarme.
And
A pesar de que yo había dejado de estudiar.
And it felt so wonderful that I was like re-entered into the program. And even though I stopped studying, that my sponsors and the church was willing to let me back in.
Y por eso estoy acá hablando, porque ellos siempre me apoyaron.
And that's why I'm here talking, because I've always been so supported by my sponsors.
Ahora estoy trabajando en la compañía de mi padrino.
And now I'm even working in the company of my sponsors.
Me siento muy feliz de eso.
And I'm so happy about that.
Tengo una maravillosa esposa.
I have a wonderful wife.
A good job. Yeah, and I can help my family by myself. And my sponsors always are helping my brothers. Josue, he is going to be a lawyer. So, yeah, it's everything nice. Yeah, it's good que las personas puedan apoyar a los becarios en El Salvador, así como yo, muchos están muy felices.
And it's so great that people help the different students in El Salvador, and all of them, just like me, are really happy with that support.
Ellos ven una esperanza en ustedes para seguir adelante.
And they see hope in you to keep moving forward. Hay 65.
Hay 65 estudiantes, becarios, pero aún faltan, hay 11 que no tienen su beca.
Currently, there are 65 students who are enrolled in the scholarship program. A few of them are still awaiting sponsors.
Sí, gracias por toda su ayuda.
Thank you for all of your help.
Thank you, thank you. And finally, Andy's here to speak about our third partnership, a Carrie.
Good morning. For those who might not know me, my name is Andy Peterson. I will be sharing a story with you today about a church elder of the Nguruma parish in Tanzania named Nahum Mayasi. Nahum is an important person in the partnership we have with Akari and Nguruma, and he is an important person to me. Nahum was one of the first members we met. The pictures I have of Nahum show him to be happy, animated, and involved. Every time we visited, he would be around to sit with us, visit with us, share his stories about the Meru tribe, and play with the children. I can hear his voice in my head. He constantly affirms the partnership and walks with us when we are there. Nahum loves children. He was more actively engaged with children than anyone else that I saw. It is no surprise that Nahum helped shape the vision of the school project. He knew that young people in his country must be afforded the best learning opportunities possible so they can be successful and improve their way of life. It was Nahum who helped lead the way in expanding the vision of the project from a new kindergarten class to a full primary school with 9 grades. A few years ago, the project was challenged by a new requirement set by the Tanzanian government. These requirements could not be met easily or quickly. Everyone had understood that we were facing a risk that the school could be shut down until those requirements were met. It was Nahum who stood up in our meeting where all of these concerns were laid out and said, Akari cannot build a school by itself. St. John's cannot build the school by itself either. But look what we are doing together. He had an unshakable hope that the partnership would overcome the challenges and provide justice in education. Shortly after that statement, fear turned into optimism. Optimism turned into action, and eventually the requirements were met and the school is thriving. During my visits to Tanzania, I find that learning about their culture is very fascinating. There are many differences between our cultures. For example, we Americans are very direct in how we communicate. This is not always well received at first. When they are not fully comfortable with the situation, Tanzanians may answer our questions by telling a story with the answer woven in. Listen closely. However, Tanzanians do not have any issues with us asking them how old they are. Tanzanians will respond to this question with a more direct answer, such as, next year, I will be 47 years old, God willing. Tanzanians are not shy about age because age and wisdom is well respected, and a higher number will earn more respect from others. Tanzanians have a special greeting to show this respect when meeting an older person. For instance, when I greet Nahum, I could say, Shikamoo, after which he would respond, Marahaba. This shows that we both know he is my elder, and I value his wisdom. After going through customs at the Kilimanjaro airport in April of this year, we were greeted by many people, including a choir who sang to us. Some of the people we already knew, and others we did not know yet. Of course, not everyone was there, but I imagine there were several others that were thinking of us and were there in spirit. Their effort to greet us is a special gift. No one else that gets off the airplane with us is greeted like that, and it does not go unnoticed by us or others in the airport. One person we did not see at the airport was our friend Nahum. Since he was not there, I was looking forward to seeing him in the coming days. When I replayed the arrival in my mind, I became concerned about his absence because he was always around during our previous visits, and I was afraid that something might have happened to him. The next day, I asked two new friends we met from the Nguruma parish, Pastor Peter and the evangelist Helen Afitwa Mnguri, about Nahum. They told us he is no longer able to come here because he was having trouble getting around. We knew immediately that we needed to take time to go visit him since he could not come see us. We asked Pastor Peter and Helen if we could schedule a time to visit Nahum at his house. We planned to arrive at the Nguruma church Saturday afternoon and walk from there to Nahum's house because the roads were not good. When Saturday came, we found that it was taking longer than planned to buy the supplies that we needed for the school, and we could not honor our meeting time. We desperately tried to communicate with Pastor Peter, hoping to reschedule our visit for Sunday, our last day at a carry. Sunday was a long day filled with rain. Attending worship services, attending a cornerstone laying ceremony for the school with the bishop, more rain, a celebration of 10 years in partnership, food, and fellowship. After the celebrations, we said goodbye to many friends and began to look forward to our visit with Nahum. Our friend Jeffrey Kaya was going to take us down the bumpy hill to the fork in the road that leads to the Nguruma church and Nahum's house. However, after loading into his truck, Jeffrey informed me that we were going to have to cancel our visit. I was not sure of the reason. Was Nahum upset that we had to reschedule? Did something happen to Nahum? Had the roads worsened because of the rain? We were sad that we had missed our opportunity. Before we could return to our host homes, we noticed some discussion taking place between Jeffrey, Pastor Peter, Helen, and others. The words were fast and in Kiswahili, so we did not know what was being said. However, we could read concern on their faces and body language. Jeffrey eventually returned to the truck and said that we will now go visit Nahum. We were delighted that we were going to make good on our promise. Down the bumpy hill we rode in Jeffrey's truck to the fork in the road. Helen was driving another small SUV down the hill behind us. I assumed that we were going to walk from there, but instead we all piled in to the SUV and went a little further down the hill and then turned right onto a mud road that led us deeper into the community than I had ever been before. The car bounced and slid its way through the narrow pathways. Helen honked her horn to tell people on the road to step out of the way. Without stopping the car, Helen greeted everyone we passed. I am sure it was a kind greeting, but it usually sounded like they were in trouble. Perhaps she knew they had not attended worship service that morning. I lost my bearings and I had no idea where I was. We arrived at the gate at Nahum's property and entered. We were ushered into the living room as we were greeted by Nahum's sons and others. We sat down in the living room and waited for the family members to bring Nahum to us. While we waited, we made small talk with each other and some of the family members. During the conversation, Nahum's wife offered us hot tea or coffee. I chose to have some wonderful vanilla-flavored tea. After I had finished my tea, the family wondered why we were not having a second cup to warm us up since it was so cold. The weather was cloudy and rainy, and I admit that it was cooler than it had been, but the temperature was in the 70s that day, and it felt very warm to us. After all, we had recently left Wisconsin, where the temperatures were in the 30s. Nahum was wheeled out to the living room by one of his sons. He looked at Deborah and Gail and responded with laughter and smiles. Happy tears rolled down his cheeks. He could not hear us unless we got close to him and talked in his ear. He asked one of his family members to grab a knickknack off the mantel. It was a miniature nativity scene that Gail had given him on one of her previous visits. They talked about it for a while. He also asked one of his sons to bring him something from another room. I happened to be standing behind him so I could talk to him when he opened his hand to show me a multi-tool. I did not recognize it at first, but then it occurred to me that it was the tool that I had given him a number of years ago. When I told him that I had recognized it and said out loud that I had given it to him, he shrieked. These small gifts were treasures that he kept. As the sun was setting, we realized that our visit had to end because we needed to be able to make our way back along the muddy roads so that we could get to the main bumpy road before dark. At the end of our visit, his son told us that he could see that his father was special to us because we had gone so far out of our way. He could also see how special we were to him because he was so happy to see us. Before we left, we took some pictures with Nahum and Helen offered a prayer. This was no ordinary prayer. It was the strongest prayer I have ever heard, and even though I only heard 2 Kiswahili words that I recognized, Baba, which means Father, and Amen. It was as if she was commanding God with her powerful words, and he had no choice but to respond. I don't know what she prayed for, but I am sure it included a blessing on Nahum and his family, as well as our partnership. We said our goodbyes and left. Deep down, I felt this may be the last time we see Nahum on this earth. We all left overwhelmed with that same feeling. I hope we are wrong because Nahum is a cornerstone for the partnership and the school project that is helping many children get a great educational experience that they need.
Andy has left us with an unfinished story, and perhaps that is just how life is. We wait for the outcome, knowing sometimes life has its ups and its downs. But I'm so grateful to our 3 who have shared, because I hear stories of hope, stories of happy endings from Miguel and Julie, and stories of our continued work. And perhaps, Miguel, I want you to hear the blessing you bring to this congregation today is a reminder that in the small acts of kindness we attempt and do by faith, that they make a difference. Just once in a while, they make a difference. We hear again the power of visiting one another and just to be together, know someone cares about you, loves you, is so important. And perhaps overall is the power of prayer. As we lift each other up in prayer, they for us and we for our partners, God accomplishes great things through us and in us as we walk this journey together, arm in arm with Christians around the world, rejoicing in a God who loves us, who blesses us, who wants to give us good things. And one of those gifts is always hope.